Okay, let's unpack this. It feels like we're all perpetually plugged in, doesn't it? Just constant notifications. Everything feels so loud.
It really does. That feeling of being overwhelmed, um, pulled in a million directions, that's kind of the baseline for modern life, it seems.
Absolutely. And you, our listener, you're trying to keep up, right? Gain knowledge fast, but, without getting completely swamped by it all.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've got this really interesting stack of sources.
Yeah, quite a mix. Articles on team building, the science behind like nature and health,
Practical stuff, too, like camping guides, yoga
but
practices.
even down to specific retreat examples and what they might
You
cost.
know what's fascinating? The common thread through all of them,
Hmm.
it really points to this fundamental need to, well, step away from all that noise.
To disconnect.
To disconnect, yeah, but also to intentionally connect. Find ways to recharge, build resilience, often by getting out of our usual routines, our usual places.
Right. And it's not just like a personal wellness trend anymore, is it? These ideas, disconnecting, nature, real connection, they're popping up everywhere.
Definitely. In corporate strategies, even things like doctors actually prescribing time outdoors.
So our mission here then is to really dig into why. Why are these intentional experiences becoming so crucial right now?
And how? How are these strategies actually being used, evolving right now in 2025? Let's get into it.
Okay, so where do we start with the why? What's driving this?
Well, a huge catalyst, according to these sources, is how much work itself has changed. You know, the rise of hybrid work, remote teams.
Ah, okay, so the lack of like everyday face-to-face time.
Precisely. Those natural moments of connection, the casual chats, the spontaneous collaborations, they just happen less often.
And the sources really highlight the impact of that. The stats are, well, they're pretty stark actually.
They are. Get this. One source said 52% of employees have either left a job or thought about leaving,
52%. Wow.
specifically because they didn't feel a sense of community at work. It's a major factor.
That's huge. And it's not just the fully remote people feeling it.
No, hybrid workers too. Apparently 48% of them are on teams that don't even have a formal plan for how they'll collaborate or connect.
So they're just kind of left adrift?
Seems like it. Which probably explains why another source found 53% of remote workers actively struggle to feel connected to their colleagues.
Big gaps opening up there.
Huge gaps.
Yeah.
And the sources emphasize this, that human connection isn't just nice. It's vital for good teamwork.
Right. I saw a figure, something like a 23% improvement in collaboration.
Yeah, something like that. But fostering those connections now, it's just harder to do organically through screens.
And then there's the whole other layer of just digital life in general, right? Beyond work tools.
Absolutely. Social media, the constant pings, it creates this digital fatigue. The sources talk about it fueling anxiety, loneliness.
Burnout, too. Definitely burnout. One number that really jumped out was 69% of remote workers reporting more burnout because of all the digital tools they have to use.
69%. So it pulls us into this virtual world, but away from like actual direct interaction.
Exactly. So you have this widespread disconnection, right? Driven by work changes, digital overload.
Hmm?
What's the answer the sources keep pointing to?
It seems to be these intentional gatherings, retreats, offsites, structured team building.
Yes. Framed not just as a nice perk, but as a strategic, almost necessary response.
And companies seem to be buying into that. The data backs it up.
It does, almost 68%. So well over two-thirds of companies
Good.
say team building is the main reason they do offsites.
So it's not just strategy sessions or training. It's about the people connecting.
Primarily. They see it as critical for fixing or boosting those human connections we talked about.
And the benefits go beyond just, getting away from the office.
Oh, yeah. Change of scenery is nice, sure. But it's deeper building trust, actually improving communications, space for reflection, face-to-face time, unplugging from devices too, I bet.
That's a big one. And just having some fun together. And these aren't just feelings. They link to real outcomes.
Like what?
Well, employees who feel engaged, connected, they're significantly less likely to be diagnosed with depression. One source put it at 37% less likely.
37%. That's a massive impact on well-being.
Huge. And it hits the bottom line, too. Getting out of the usual routine actually boosts creativity, helps with problem solving.
Makes sense. A fresh perspective.
Exactly. And something like 90% of employers agree that building that community feel is important for business success.
So they see a return on putting effort into team building.
Clearly.
Yeah.
The sources describe it as an investment that pays off. One mentioned a potential 50% jump in positive communication after good team building.
50% increase. Okay, that's tangible.
Yeah, it's seen as this catalyst for engagement and productivity that you can't really replicate online.
Okay, so intentional gatherings are key, but then there was this other major theme woven through everything: nature.
Ah, yes, nature. Yeah. This is where it gets really fascinating. The sources bring in science here, talking about eco-psychology.
Eco-psychology, okay.
And the point they hammer home is that nature isn't just a pretty backdrop for these retreats or activities.
Mhm.
It's fundamental, a have-to-have for our health, both physical and mental.
I have to have. That's a strong claim. Is there specific research backing that up?
Yes,
Yeah.
quite compelling stuff.
Right.
One big study found that spending just 2 hours a week,
Yeah.
only 2 hours, in green spaces like parks or woods,
Yeah.
is linked to significantly better health and psychological well-being.
Just 2 hours. That seems doable.
Right, but here's the key bit. Less than 2 hours didn't consistently show those benefits.
Yeah.
So that 2-hour mark seems important somehow.
Okay, so what's actually happening in our bodies and minds when we spend that time in nature? What are the specific benefits?
Oh, the list is long. Lower blood pressure, less stress hormones like cortisol.
Okay.
It calms your nervous system, boosts your immune function, increases self-esteem, reduces anxiety, improves mood. It can even lessen symptoms of ADD and aggression, speed of healing after surgery, reduce feelings of loneliness, just promotes calm.
That's quite a list. So how is this science actually changing things? Are we seeing it applied in, the real world in 2025?
We are. It's starting to influence things like urban planning, trying to eliminate park deserts in cities.
Right, making green space more accessible.
Exactly. And building design more access to nature. Businesses are realizing employees actually want green spaces nearby.
And things like forest schools.
Huge growth there. And maybe the most striking thing, some healthcare providers are actually prescribing nature time. Initiatives like ParkRx America.
Nature as medicine, that really reframes it.
It does. And some sources even touched on its potential to reduce crime, maybe even help with climate anxiety by reconnecting us to the natural world. It's not just a setting, it's an active ingredient in well-being.
Okay, so we've got the problem: disconnection, overload. The solution: intentional gatherings. And this powerful amplifier: nature. How do these all come together in the kinds of retreats and experiences people are actually doing?
Well, the sources show a really broad range. Retreats can have different focuses, right?
Right.
Wellness, maybe yoga and meditation focus.
Or spiritual. Course
Probably-
for strategy.
Exactly. Pure team building, adventure trips. The activities really reflect that diversity.
So it's definitely not just PowerPoint in a prettier location.
Oh, far from it. You see activities designed to just burn off energy, like, believe it or not, axe throwing or rage rooms.
Rage rooms for team bonding, that's intense.
Right. A way to de-stress together, I
Yeah.
guess. Then you have things more focused on work success, like dedicated brainstorming sessions, maybe a company book club, or recognition programs built into the retreat.
But the ones that seem most powerful are those integrating nature, yeah.
Absolutely. Things like guided nature walks, yoga by a lake, maybe even wildlife safaris or those Everglades airboat tours mentioned.
Hiking, snorkeling on an island, getting people out there.
Yes. And then you have activities that blend skill building with fun, like a cooking class together, or mixology, wine tasting, even art classes like mosaic making.
And what about those hybrid teams? Are there ways to capture this virtually?
They're trying. Sources mention things like virtual escape rooms, digital treasure hunts, using games, even AI sometimes, to create shared challenges online.
Trying to mimic that shared experience, even digitally.
Right. An attempt, anyway.
And you mentioned mindfulness earlier, yoga, meditation. How integrated are those practices?
Increasingly central, it seems. Sometimes they're the retreat, like mindful camping or beach yoga.
Ah, okay.
And the sources point out that just being in nature, really listening to the sounds around you, can be a meditation in itself. Plus, that deliberate act of putting the phone away in the wilderness, that's often key.
Speaking of wilderness, the beach came up quite a bit, especially beach yoga. What's special about that setting?
Well, the beach just has this incredibly restorative vibe, doesn't it? The sound of the waves, the vastness.
Definitely.
And for yoga, the sand is interesting. It's soft, sure, but also unstable. So a pose like downward dog might feel deeper,
Okay.
but something like tree pose, suddenly much harder to balance. Even poses like shoulder stand feel safer with sand if you wobble.
Huh, I can imagine.
And matching your breath, that oceanic breath or UJ, with the actual ocean sounds, It just adds another layer.
Sounds amazing. But trying to camp right on a beach, that must have challenges.
Oh, absolutely. The sources mention things you have to know. Understanding tides is crucial, respecting the dunes.
Right, they're fragile ecosystems.
Very. And weather can change fast over water.
Yeah.
Plus, practical stuff like needing tarps to try and keep sand out of everything.
Good point. And food always plays a role in these gatherings too, doesn't it?
Always. Whether it's thoughtfully planned healthy meals at a corporate retreat,
Hmm.
maybe lots of veggie options, or the whole communal aspect of campfire cooking.
Any fun examples in the sources?
Yeah, some good ones. Make-ahead camping food like freezer burritos or oatmeal
Oh.
cakes. Campfire classics like garlic buttercorn on the cob or biscuits on a stick. Even creative vegan stuff like BBQ carrot dogs.
BBQ carrot dogs. Interesting. Okay, so we've covered the why, the what, the where. Bringing it back to basics, what about planning and, importantly, cost?
Right, the practical side. Planning involves thinking about your group, how big, what are the goals, then location seasonality, how easy is it to get to, and yeah, the budget.
And these retreats, especially for companies, they can seem pricey, can't they?
They definitely can represent a significant line item. The sources gave an average ballpark for corporate ones, maybe $2,000 to $3,000 per
Per
person.
person. Wow.
Yeah, and this was stress that varies wildly. Depends on where you go, how long, what you do, how fancy it is.
Still, that's a chunk of change for a business.
It is. But the consistent message we saw was that companies increasingly view this not as an expense, but as an investment.
An investment in their people.
Exactly. An investment they expect to pay off in stronger teams, better collaboration, more creativity, and yeah, ultimately better business results. And even for groups without big corporate budgets, things like fundraising for a retreat were mentioned as options.
It really circles back to that idea of being intentional, doesn't it?
Totally. Intentionally stepping away from the chaos, intentionally seeking real connection, and intentionally tapping into those deep, proven benefits of being in nature.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows how all these threads are coming together. It's about tackling modern problems like isolation and burnout,
Using the science of well-being.
and offering all these diverse, engaging ways to reconnect with each other and with the world around us.
It feels pretty essential for 2025, honestly.
Which leads to the final question, really, for you listening.
Yeah, given all this, the need for breaks, the power of connection, the science of nature, how can you bring some of these principles into your own life or your own work, even starting small? What really stands out to you from everything we've unpacked today?